Hey guys, what's going on? Sam Bosworth here. Just before I start this video, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has come through from my Dr. Phil video. It's performed so well compared to the videos I've done in the past, and I'm really glad to see people seem to enjoy me talking about disability. So for all the comments and everyone who's come through and subscribed and followed me on my social networks, thank you guys so much. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my experience in using a wheelchair, what led me to need to use a wheelchair, as well as my other walking aids, and just generally how I get out and about. So let's get to it. Okay, so in this video I'm going to sort of touch on 4 topics. What is my disability, which I've talked about before, but we'll get a little bit into it in this video. How did I transition from not using a wheelchair to using a wheelchair, and why did I choose to do that? How did I transition from not using a wheelchair or crutches to decide to starting to use a wheelchair and crutches every single day, as well as how long I've been doing that? And finally, all the different ways it's helped me and sort of really improved my life. So first off, I'm just going to very quickly talk about my disability. I've done a whole video. It's the most popular video on my channel. I think it's sitting at 13,000 views or something right now. I'll put my whole disability playlist up in the cards. I think it's this side. For all my disability videos, but the one where I talk about my disability in full is in there as well if you want to check that out. But basically, I have a disease called Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease. It's one of the most popular, if that's the right word, neurological diseases in the world. It affects 1 in 2,500 people. It is a form of peripheral neuropathy. What does that mean? Well, it basically means that my nerves didn't form properly when I was born, so they pull incredibly hard on my feet, and my hands, as you can probably see, I don't know how focused that's going to be, are really thin and apparently have the strength of an 80-year-old man, one of my doctors chose to tell me, so that's nice. So it is incredibly painful for me to walk. My feet have incredibly high arches, kind of look like this, so that is why, although I can sort of walk and weight bear around my house, leaning on various pieces of furniture, in a lot of pain for the most part, obviously, you can see why I need to use a wheelchair. So my Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease, I'm going to be calling it CMT from here on out. It leaves me in a lot of pain as well, not just from my feet, but I get a lot of back pain. I've dislocated my left knee 3 times, my right knee 1 time. Which is incredibly painful, to say the least. I don't know if that is a bird or a horse or somebody dying, but good lord. So those are the sort of things that affect me when I'm out about. Obviously the feet being incredibly high arched and I walk on the very sides of my feet is incredibly painful, and the risk of knee dislocation is also quite high for me if I'm not careful when I'm walking, so obviously it makes a lot of sense for me to be using crutches or, more often than not, a wheelchair. So moving on, we'll go on to how did I transition to using a wheelchair and crutches. So basically I'm going to start this story at 23. But when I was between 18 and 21 I dislocated my knee 3 times. I did use various walking aids then, but they were really just to get me back walking again, which I did do. And I was fairly independent at that age. But when I got to 23 is when my disability really started to get quite bad. I should probably have mentioned earlier in the video, my disability is degenerative, which is incredibly hard to say. That's my 3rd attempt, which means it gets worse over time. The past few years it's been worse month to month, not even year to year. So when I hit around 23 was when I was really starting to struggle to get out without any crutches or a walking stick or anything, just like without any walking aid. And after a lot of nagging from my girlfriend, and she was completely right of course, I realised I needed to switch to using crutches or a walking stick. I tried a walking stick for a few months, but the amount of stress it was putting on my hand more than anything else was a nightmare, and really it was only balancing out one side of my leg, and I've got 2 bad legs and bad feet, so that really wasn't any good. So around the age of sort of 23 to 24, 25, I used crutches for a few years whenever I went out. I would try not to if I could help it, but I realised eventually that if I went out for even half an hour without crutches at that age, by the time the next day rolled around, I'd be in agony, I'd be swollen up, it was a nightmare, so the crutches were definitely important for that time. I get a lot of questions about what crutches I use when I post them on Instagram or if I've mentioned them in a video before, so just quickly I will mention what they are. I got them from Amazon. They're called HMS Vilgo crutches. I will put a link down in the description for anyone interested. I paid $29.99 and that roughly translates to around $40. I'm sure you probably can get them in America. I'm not sure why that wouldn't be the case. I have heard from some people a while back that they disappeared off Amazon, but I just checked today and they do seem to be back. If you are curious as to what I'm talking about, I'll put up a picture, or I may already have put up a picture here so you can see what they look like. They're kind of cool. They're red, so you know they're a bit different from the NHS, just basic silvery metal aluminium crutches. They're nice and light, they're really comfortable to use. The only problem is they have an open arm, so when you're using them they kind of come around here. They don't have a full circle, so your arm isn't fully enclosed. I put some red Velcro around the outside just because I found if I was trying to get a wallet out of a pocket or anything, then I'd have to rest the crutch somewhere, whereas if you've got the full enclosure around your arm, obviously they just balance on your arm while you're doing whatever. So I did that to mine. You'll see that in the pictures I've taken here, where I show you what they look like. It just makes them a bit easier to use for me, but I understand why some people would prefer them to be completely open on. So I think that about covers sort of my transition to crutches, but when I got to around 25, it was getting to be quite clear that even with crutches, I was in a lot of pain. I wasn't really able to stay out for very long because the pain from my feet and even my hands on the rest of crutches was just too great. And I knew it was probably time to start sort of transitioning into a wheelchair, which I put off for a long time, and I'll talk about why in a bit. Around 25, that's when I started. So I didn't have my own wheelchair at that time, but when I went to somewhere big like a shopping mall, as Americans would say, or the Metro Centre we have over here, shopping centre, I would rent a wheelchair from there. I'm sure most of you who have used a wheelchair will know what I'm talking about. They have those rental wheelchairs. They're not always great, they're not always working, they're not always complete. Some don't have footrests, some of the wheels squeak and it's a nightmare. But for probably about a year, I rented from those sort of places when I went to like a big shopping centre or any sort of larger area. And to be honest, that really changed my opinion of wanting to be in a wheelchair, because I realised that I could do so much more when I was in one. So after about a year of doing that, I started to realise that if I wanted to go anywhere that wasn't a shopping centre or didn't offer rental wheelchairs, that it was going to be a complete nightmare. So I buckled down and decided it was time to buy my own. I don't have a lot of money, I am on disability benefits and stuff like that. I don't work, this is my work, if you want to call it that. Obviously I love doing YouTube, I don't really class that as work. So I decided to look at our version of Craigslist, which is called Gumtree. I guess now you've got Facebook Marketplace as well and all those sort of places. And I was incredibly lucky. I came across this wheelchair for 50 quid, or 50 pounds, or 50 sterling. I don't know, I'm trying not to confuse the Americans amongst us here. But it was 50 quid, and I got a hell of a deal. The wheelchair I use, I'm going to put some pictures and video up now so you can kind of see what it is. It's called an Enigma XS, and it's made of aluminium. I don't know if the aluminium is in the title or what, if anybody likes the look of it. I was incredibly lucky to pay 50 quid. I've had a look online today, and it seems they go from anywhere from 180 to 250 for that exact model. Which is around about, the £240 is about $315 from what I've checked online today. I absolutely love my wheelchair. Not only is it red, so it doesn't look like the basic boring wheelchairs. That was kind of one thing I wanted. I wanted it to have a little bit of personality. At the end of the day, I'm going to be sort of wearing it, if you like clothes every single time I go out of the house. So it being red was a huge selling point for me. There were cheaper wheelchairs on the marketplaces I looked at for 20 quid, 30 quid, people just looking to get rid. But I didn't mind paying a little bit extra to get this one, not only because it was red, but also because it wasn't just your basic broken leg sort of stopgap wheelchair for a couple of weeks or a month. It was going to be my all-the-time wheelchair, and it looked like it was relatively good. Just to give you a little quick review, it is absolutely fantastic. It's incredibly light due to the fact it's made of aluminium. My girlfriend has no problem really getting me up steep curbs and stuff like that when she pushes me. It is self-propelled, and while I can self-propel every now and again, I don't really, but when I do, as you'll see in this video here, it can turn on a penny. You know, it's really light, it's easy to push around. But obviously I don't really self-propel that much, so I can't give a review of how it would be over any sort of distance. But if you are interested in checking it out for yourself, I'll put a link in the description for anyone in the UK who might want to check it out. I'll have a look to see if I can find a US site, but I don't know if they're a British company or what. But either way, the links will be down in the description, so do check that out if you're interested in finding one of these for yourself. But honestly, if I was you, while my wheelchair is great, there are plenty out there that are just as good, probably better, that you could get on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist if that still exists in America, or Gumtree over here, wherever. Just keep an eye out on secondhand sites, secondhand pages. So now I'm going to talk about sort of why I hesitated to use a wheelchair. So every time I lean forward I'm getting the sun in my face. I do apologise if that is off-putting. There we go, covered it. So now I'm going to talk about how I transitioned mentally into using a wheelchair, and sort of why I put myself off getting one for so long, when really when I was 21 it would have been a good idea to get one. So obviously I think like a lot of us with disability, I was dubious of the staring and the judging and the comments and the questions I was going to get in a wheelchair. And while since getting one, there absolutely are people that stare and judge and make comments and ask stupid questions. At the end of the day, when you weigh out the pros and the cons, honestly the comments and the judging, you forget about it. Yeah, for the first month, you'll be looking at every single person you walk past and you'll think they're all looking at you and they're all judging you, but I can tell you now, they're not. There'll be the occasional person. But I've been in one for roughly 3 years now, I think. Not every day, but whenever I go out, I use one. And honestly, I never really get comments. Every now and again, a cashier will say something stupid at a store, or You know, I'll see some kids laugh, whatever, but I just don't care because it enables me to get out of the house and do things I could never have done before. I also was kind of worried that a lot of places weren't going to be as accessible. Obviously with crutches you're basically just the same size as any other person who's walking around, so you can fit into small stores and stuff like that. But with a wheelchair it takes up a lot more room. But what you forget is that although wheelchairs are fairly common, they are nowhere near as common as prams and pushchairs for babies and children, and a lot of stores are already set up for that, but they're also will take into account wheelchairs. There has definitely been places I've wanted to go that I couldn't, and I've had to get my girlfriend to go in for me, or I've had to shop online to buy some things, but honestly 90% of the places I've been have all been wheelchair accessible. Yeah, obviously hiking and stuff like that, if I was into that, which I'm not really, but if I was, it would be an issue. But you can get wheelchairs that can deal with outdoor terrain. They're a bit more expensive, but if that was something you were really into, there's no reason why you should stop doing that sort of stuff. You can get wheelchairs that will handle that. That's my door. Sorry about that, if I look slightly flushed from the next scene, it's because the man just came to read the electric meter and my house is a tip, so it's not easy to getting him into the electric meter. Anyway, so now I want to talk about the positives that come with being in a wheelchair. First and foremost, and most importantly, is I actually get out of the house now. Prior to being in a wheelchair, I would put off going out as often as possible, but it's enabled me to get out and do things I really just could not do. Like, for example, even something as simple as just going shopping. My girlfriend and I go to a huge shopping centre that I mentioned earlier, the Merit Centre, and if I went there with my crutches I could maybe last 20 minutes, and that's really pushing it, and then I'd be in pain for a week. I could go to the one shop I want to go to or whatever, and that'd be it. But with my wheelchair we can go there for 2 or 3 hours, we can get food or whatever. Yes, I'm in a lot of back pain, but it's really nothing compared to the complete inability I would have to enjoy something like that if I was on my crutches. I'm in a hell of a lot less pain as well. I think that is a big thing to mention, although yes, I do get back pain. I use heat pads and take pretty strong painkillers to battle that. But if I really need to get out for a long period of time, you know, the wheelchair really enables me to do that without being in constant, unignorable pain, you know, where I'm just sitting there waiting to go home. So obviously that is a huge pro of being in a wheelchair. It's enabled me to have a social life, it's enabled me to see friends that I wouldn't really be able to do anything with otherwise, you know. Yes, people will come here, but a lot of people, I think, in any friendship want to go out and do things, and the wheelchair enables me to do that and have a social life that I otherwise really couldn't have. It's definitely helped my relationship with Ali. Obviously I've done pretty much 2 videos on relationships now, I'm not going to go too deep into that, but it allows us to go out on dates that I could never do before, whether it's through a restaurant or anything like that I couldn't really manage before the wheelchair because I'd be in too much pain. I don't want this video to be super duper long, so I'm not going to go too much into the pros. I think it's pretty obvious and you can see for yourself. If you're a wheelchair user, you'll know the amount of freedom and even independence a wheelchair can give you. So my advice to you, if you're looking to get a wheelchair or crutches or any kind of walking aid, if you're maybe like I was and you're putting it off because you're too scared of the judgments or whatever, or the stigma that comes with being in a wheelchair, just do it. Save yourself the hassle. Go out and get one if you can afford it. Rent one if you can't from stores that offer it. It will honestly change your life. It literally is life-changing. You can get a nice wheelchair, you can customize it any way you want, you can get fancy wheel trims, whatever. I've got like a little LED flashy light on mine that I love when it's nighttime, stuff like that. You can really tailor it to yourself. You can get custom wheelchairs if you've got the finances. You can get electric wheelchairs. There is obviously a whole sea of options out there for you. Just do it if you're thinking about it. If you think you need it, if you're in a lot of pain, it will be well worth just doing it. And again, like I said earlier, if you are struggling financially like I was at the time, be sure to check out any secondhand sites because you will save an absolute fortune, whether it's Facebook Marketplace or Gumtree or Craigslist. Like I mentioned earlier, it really is worth doing. So I feel like I've been a bit all over the place there. I'm still relatively new to these sort of talking videos like this, but I think I've covered everything I want to cover. If you have any questions about anything I use or just anything disability related or any video suggestions, feel free to drop them down in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Be sure to follow me on my social medias. I'll put them in the end card, but they'll also be down in the description if you just want to click on them. I'll be right there. You can DM me, ask me anything. I'm pretty active on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that, so be sure to check them out down below and in the end card. And as I did mention earlier, if you are interested in getting the same crutches I have or the wheelchair I have, if you like those, the links will be in the description, definitely for the UK people, but I will try and find them in the US if I can. If not, apologies, but you may well be able to dig a little deeper than I did and find them down there. So that's everything, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'm really enjoying talking about disability. It's something that affects me every day and really means a lot to me to talk to you guys about it. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, be sure to hit the like button down below. It obviously helps me out. It'll help way more people see the video. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe. I'm trying to do at least one disability video a week. Similar like this. If you have any ideas for any more videos, I'd love to hear them down below. And that's about it. Thank you so much again, guys. Really appreciate it. Bye!